Disciplined, dedicated, committed. We all have the desire to embody these words at some point in our lives. You may have experienced these desires recently, in the new year. You threw on your running shoes and kicked off your latest bout with discipline. But the fatigue set in, the excuses piled up, and your comfort triumphed over your discipline. Building new habits can be a monumental task, especially if you rely on willpower and motivation alone. They are insufficient at allowing you to build long-lasting habits. You may spiral into self-loathing after repeated attempts and failures and feel that it's impossible to build the habits. But it's not your fault. You simply don't have the right knowledge to build habits. You were never taught. In this video, I will show you the way. I will share with you my 4-step habit building framework. This framework has allowed me to build unbreakable habits. Using the framework that I'm about to share with you, I lost over 30 kilograms of body fat. I read 32 books in a single year, which was more than I had ever read in my life up to that point. And after never running a single day in my life, I ran over 400 kilometers in 2023. Let's get started. Step 1 is to prepare a habit hierarchy. In order to build unbreakable habits, it is important to clearly identify the habits that you wish to pursue. If you don't know what you're committing to, how can you commit to it? Level 0 of the hierarchy would be the activity itself. The activity itself can be within one of 3 domains. The first being physical. A physical habit is great for your health, it's very fun, and very fulfilling. An example of a physical habit would be running, weight training, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The second domain would be intellectual. An intellectual habit would require mental fortitude and mental stimulation. This could be daily reading or daily studying. The third domain would be creative. A creative habit allows you to express your inner creativity. It's part of what makes you unique. An example of a creative habit could be playing a musical instrument or creating artwork. My best advice is to select a habit from one of each of these domains. This will allow you to keep practicing, to keep building yourself up as a person and keep improving in all 3 domains. Because each of these domains are relatively independent, you can perform these habits in conjunction with one another. Running every single day will not impact your ability to draw every single day. So you can commit to both habits relatively easily. The next level of the habit hierarchy is frequency. Frequency is simply how often you want to perform this habit. My best recommendation is to select from either daily or every other day. Habits that aren't performed for more than a day or 2 would be more difficult to maintain. In order to maximize the effectiveness of these principles, I'd advise performing at least one of your chosen habits daily, even if you perform the task for a short amount of time. Speaking of time, the next level of the hierarchy is time. This is the length of time you wish to commit to the habit per frequency session. For building a brand new habit, I'd commit to at least 30 minutes per session. If you spend less than 30 minutes per session on your habit, it'll become more difficult to maintain that habit and you will derive less benefit from the activity itself. Less than 30 minutes of weight training probably won't build you muscle, and less than 30 minutes of drawing may end up having a drawing like this. A complete example of a habit flowing through the hierarchy would be playing the guitar every single day for at least 30 minutes. The second step of the framework are triggers. Early stages of habit development are understandably the most difficult. You have to battle with your existing bad habits and your lack of discipline. Fortunately, there's a tool that makes this so much easier. This tool is basically a biohack for habit building, and that tool is triggers. So firstly, what is a trigger? A trigger is an event that clearly signals that it is time to perform a habit. Triggers can and should be visual, auditory, and tactile. You are undoubtedly already affected by triggers in your daily life. For example, many of you would have experienced this trigger. When you sit down to eat a meal, you can't help but pulling out your phone or turning on the TV and watching some content. The combination of seeing your plate of food, sitting down to eat, and seeing the television allows you to perform the habit of watching content. But why do you even do that? You're not even consciously thinking about it. You just automatically want to watch a video. This is the power of triggers, and you can use it to your advantage. How to set up your own triggers. To get the most effectiveness out of triggers, you want to set up as many as possible for your desired habit. And each of these triggers should stimulate as many of the senses as possible. Here is an example of a trigger process for the habit running. Your visual trigger would be seeing your running shoes by the door, or seeing the shoes in an obvious place where you will guarantee to walk past. Your auditory trigger would be the alarm that you've set to notify you that it's time to go running. And your tactile trigger would be the act of putting on the running shoes itself, tying the shoelaces, and getting ready to go. Through these three types of triggers, you have effectively signaled to your brain that it is time to perform the habit. So much of our brain's energy is dedicated to perceiving the senses. We are constantly looking at things, constantly hearing things, and constantly feeling things without thinking about it. Because of this, your brain is constantly seeking ways to conserve energy. Thus, by associating the habit with these three triggers, your brain will automatically want to save energy. So, when it perceives all of these triggers, it will signal to you that it is time to go for a run. This allows your brain to save energy in the resistance of performing the habit that you would otherwise encounter. It costs your brain energy to produce friction. So, the more you persist and the more you be consistent with performing these triggers and performing the habit, your brain will have no choice but to give in and save energy by allowing you to perform the habit easily. Once you have performed the habit for a long period of time, eventually you won't need these triggers anymore. Your brain will automatically associate the habit as part of your regular activity, so you will just get the urge to perform it. But for the early stages of habit development, triggers are invaluable. Step 3 is to control your environment. Controlling your environment pairs nicely with triggers to reduce the amount of friction from whatever you're currently doing to performing the habit that you desire. Let's say you wanted to play the guitar every single day. If that guitar is in its case, and that case is in the basement, and the basement door is locked, and you don't even have a basement because this isn't your guitar or your house, well, it would be extremely difficult to play the guitar. Setting up your environment in a way that allows for the triggers to be easily visible and for the habit itself to be easily performed is crucial. To set your environment for triggers, take advantage of the things you have on you all the time, such as your mobile device. Set an alarm for all the habits you want to perform. You will get the auditory trigger every single time without fail. If you want to commit to running, keep your running shoes in the middle of the walkway. You will trip over them every time you want to go do something else. You will be constantly reminded that it is time to go for a run today. If you want to read every single day, make sure the book that you want to read is located exactly where you'll be. You get the idea. You also want to imply the control your environment principle in the inverse, meaning increasing the amount of friction to perform bad habits. Bad habits will interfere with your goals and interfere with the good habits that you're trying to build. So make them as difficult as possible to perform. If you want to stop eating junk food, don't even buy it. If you want to commit to a full workout at the gym every single time instead of leaving early, sign up for a group class. The social pressure may just keep you there. The fourth and final step is to build an identity. A noteworthy idea from the book Atomic Habits is the idea of building an identity around the habit you wish to perform, rather than just saying you want to complete it. Instead of saying, I want to play the guitar, you will say, I am a guitarist. This concept is vital at maintaining habits for the long term. But how exactly can you build an identity around the habit? Well, I'll show you. First and foremost, the most obvious thing to do is continue to perform the habit. Performing the habit consistently will naturally, subconsciously build your self-association with that activity. Naturally, you'll begin to identify as someone who performs that task. So, using the other tools, please maintain your discipline and persist. But for the early stages of habit development, here are a few extra tips to build an identity around the habit. Tip number 1 is to consume content related to the habit. Diving deep into and obsessing over the nuances and components of your activity will start to evoke psychological urges to mirror what you're consuming. We have a natural tendency as human beings to want to mirror our surroundings. This may be due to our tribal survival instincts. We want to be like our tribe around us to fit in with the crowd. So, by consuming content related to the task you want to perform, you will evoke these subconscious tendencies and want to naturally perform like your tribe members, which are, of course, people on the content platforms. And of course, by consuming the content, you are indirectly learning more about the habit, possibly improving your abilities. Tip number 2 is to perform the activity with as many other people as possible. This may be less accessible to you, depending on what people you have around you, whether they want to commit to the task too, but it will evoke the same psychological tendencies as consuming content surrounding your habit. You are literally surrounding yourself with a tribe member that wants to complete the task like you do. The social pressure and competitiveness will evoke tendencies in your subconscious to perform the habit no matter what, because you want to fit in with your tribe. The third tip is to develop a real solid reason as to why you want to complete this habit. Grounding your desire to complete the habit in something deeply personal will fuel your desire to continue performing this habit greater than any external influence. Let's say you want to resistance train, you want to weight train. A superficial external reason may be just to look good for other people, but a deep-rooted internal reason of becoming stronger, becoming a protector, maximizing your full potential. Now that is a fuel source that won't die out quickly. Whatever the reason you come up with is, the deeper within it comes from, the more powerful it will be to motivate you to complete this habit. Those are the 4 principles you need to build unbreakable habits. Now, just to reinforce the effectiveness of these principles, I shall tell you a bit about my accomplishments using these 4 principles. The first habit I selected was a dedicated learning habit. This means I would study every single day for at least 1 hour. Through that habit, I was able to complete 11 certifications, including 2 professional certifications. This also included non-course specific learning, so I have 62 dedicated learning pages of different concepts that I've learned from peer-reviewed journals, books, things like that. A significant one that I mentioned at the start of the video was that I've lost over 30 kilograms of body fat over 2023. So the habit I committed to was eating healthy every single day and exercising every single day for at least 30 minutes with exercise, and for healthy eating, trying not to waver as much as possible. I committed to starting a habit of running, which allowed me to run over 430 kilometers in 2023, which was 430 more than I'd ever run in the past. So it was a brand new habit, very difficult for me to accomplish, but using the 4 principles, I was able to stick to it through the whole year. And finally, to reinforce my creative habits of guitar and piano, I committed to a daily practice regime for at least 30 minutes, and that was quite successful. Managed to accomplish that every single day. Good luck on your habit building journey. I know it will change your life as it has changed mine, and have a wonderful day.